Ready? Now let us proceed. Okay, where to further enlighten us with a different aspect of executive presence, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our resource person for today. All right. So, Mr. John Victor Canta is TEDx speaker and a learning and development consultant with more than a decade of professionalism work experience in private sectors. Mr. Canta's expertise is in personal branding, EQ-based coaching, and public speaking. His former mentees include local politicians, aspiring and newly promoted executives in the corporate realm, and influencers like Miss Earth Air 2020, Patricia Santos, and Miss Universe Philippines 2019, Gazini Granados. He is currently employed as a Learning and Development Officer in TELUS, International Philippines, a known multinational contact center based in Manila, and a featured content creator in Kumu, the world's fastest growing live streaming app. He is also a prepared mentor in Levy Institute, a personal and professional development school in Alabang, a former social operations and training consultant in Ogilvy, Philippines, sale, sales manager in Avida Land Corporation, and senior property investment consultant in Alveo Land Corporation. He graduated from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, with a degree of BS Agriculture major in extension and also took up fashion design, wow, in the Fashion Institute of the Philippines. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our first speaker for today's webinar, none other than Mr. John Victor Canta. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, honey, and good morning to everybody who's watching today. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
All
Thank you.
right.
So the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, honey. So, good morning to everybody who is watching right now here in the Department of Information and Communication Technology. Today, we will talk about the value of executive presence and professionalism in the new normal. As we all know, we are staying at home most of the time, but we still need to work. That's why we have to not only have work-life balance, we also need to understand what work-life integration is all about. So today we will talk about why this is important and what can we do so that we can still exude that executive presence when we are conducting a meeting or perhaps conducting a class. All right. So once again, my name is John Victor Canta, and feel free to send us your questions later so that we can answer everything in the Q&A. All right. Can we move on to the first slide, please? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, have you seen this video? If you are a Facebook user, if you are watching the news, I am pretty sure that you have seen this video. Of course, we will not play the video here, but these are just some screenshots. So this is basically Vico Soto having a Zoom meeting with the Foreign Correspondents Association of the Philippines. So he is basically being interviewed, and he's talking about a serious topic, more on how he is handling issues during the pandemic. However, during the video, during that live streaming meeting, in a Zoom meeting, unexpectedly something popped up, the image on the left. So I'm pretty sure someone who was handling the Zoom meeting unexpectedly pressed something and that popped up. So that person's background is, you can see the image. And because of what happened, of course, Vico was taken aback for a little bit. He even smirked a little, but then he was able to carry himself back again. So that's why it's important for us to really understand what is the importance of executive presence in professionalism. Because even if we are working from home, now more than ever, we have to be very careful. What to do? Be Vico Soto. Learn how to, of course, everyone will be surprised, but you have to also learn how to recover from being surprised from something unexpected. What not to do? Whoever was moderating that Zoom meeting, don't do that. Make sure that you are professional all throughout the session, because who knows, something might like that might happen. So that is something that everyone can relate to. So this is why we really have to talk about this. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Now, in today's session, what we will cover is number one, the power of first impressions and personal branding, because it's really important. First impression really matters nowadays, especially since you will be judged based on what everyone can see. Like in my case, you can only see this box right here where you can see me, and you don't even know me. Sometimes it can only be a unidirectional communication. So whatever I send out to you, you will definitely have your own judgment of who I am. That's why first impression is very important. And as well as personal branding. What type of personality do you want to exude? That's the first topic. Second is the reasons to practice executive presence and professionalism. Why are we even talking about this in the first place? Why do we have to do this? Can we just simply turn on our camera after we wake up in the morning? Let's cover that topic. And finally, some work from home recommendations. Of course, we will not only talk about concepts, we will talk about topics or things that you can apply at home. All right? I'm excited. I hope everyone's excited. Let's talk about first impressions. Okay, I'm going to give you around a few seconds to look at that photo and, let whatever thought in your mind sink in, because ladies and gentlemen, whatever we present online, we will be judged by it. We all know that. We all know social media. We all know Facebook, Instagram. Just like that photo. Yeah, that's me several years back. And the reason why I placed my photo there, it's because I am sure that while I'm talking, you are already creating some sort of image or some sort of judgment about who I am simply based on that photo. And don't feel guilty. That's how we really function as human beings. That is completely normal. Because, can we move on to the next slide? It is a part of our human nature to really take care of ourselves. That's why we have that kind of judgment. It only takes 1 millisecond or zero point 0.1 second. Again, 1 millisecond. So that's just 1/10 of a second. And because of that 1/10 of a second, we can instantly create an image in our mind. And this is according to a study in Princeton by psychologists Janine Willis and Alexander Todorov. So they're saying that in 1 millisecond, we are already thinking, is this person trustworthy? Is this person credible? Do I feel safe whenever if ever I meet this person? That's how we judge people. And I'm pretty sure we all experience that every single day whenever we are browsing Facebook, whenever we are looking at Instagram. That is one hard fact right there. And because of that, can we move on to the next slide, please? We really have to be mindful of how we present ourselves. These are 3 reasons. I made it as an ABC so that you can easily remember this. Reasons to practice executive presence and professionalism. Number 1, it adds value to your professional life. Whether you are a leader in a corporation, whether you are a teacher teaching K-12 or perhaps high school or pre-LM, whatever you show to the world, whether you are in a private Zoom meeting, you are in a webinar just like this, every single time that you turn on that camera, that will already add to whatever your professional standing is. I know that sometimes the world can be unfair. That's why we have to be really mindful of how we present ourselves. So if you want to enrich your professional life, we really have to talk about executive presence and professionalism. Number 2, the second one is to boost your confidence. It's simple. If you are ready, if you are prepared, and if you look good, you will feel more confident as opposed to when you are not prepared at all. For example, I prepared for this webinar, so I feel more confident compared to if I just woke up, put on a clean shirt, and then just face you all of you guys. I will definitely feel less confident because I'm not prepared. We all know that. If you fail to prepare, prepare to fail. So if you prepared and if you understand the concepts and you apply the tips that we will give out in this session, then you will feel more confident in your next meeting or in your next class. And number three, it also creates opportunities. If you're able to present yourself well, and of course, people will see you. From what I can see now, we have around 233 viewers. If I am not presenting myself well, then I will definitely lose credibility in whatever I do. This is what I do, and I'm very proud of what I do. As a learning and development officer and as a personality development trainer, this is what I do. Therefore, I need to present myself in the best possible way so that I can also perhaps get opportunities. For all I know, someone who's watching right now might be looking for another resource person. You might even get me or hire me for a speaking engagement. Who knows? But it all boils down to how I present myself to you. The same with you in your class, the same with you in your meetings, and the same with you in any single interaction that you will have over the internet. Thank you. So let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay, look at the image. The swan. The image on your left, that is the typical image of a swan. It comes to our mind. Whenever we hear the word swan, it's always beautiful, elegant, someone who is fluidly moving from space, from point A to point B. Whenever we talk about beauty, swan is always the top of mind, the main animal or the first animal that we think about. Simply because we all know how they beautifully glide across the pond. But what other people do not know, or what we do not all see, is that underneath that graceful movement, the swan is practically paddling underneath the water. That's the second image that you will see. That's an image that I got from the National Geographic. As you can see, the swan is so elegant and beautiful above water, but underneath, it's frantically paddling just to keep afloat. I want everyone who's watching right now to aim to be a swan. Whenever we are in a meeting, we have to be graceful. We have to be ready. We have to look like we have everything under control. And then what other people can see, you do your dirty stuff, your dirty job, the dirty work. Because like in this case, I'm doing my best to remain calm. I'm doing my best to remain as eloquent as I can to communicate with you. But you don't see is that underneath all this, some things are happening. But I don't need to show everything to you because what matters is that we remain on topic. You have everything that I'm talking about ingrained in your mind, and anything else are simply distractions, noise that you don't need to see. Because ultimately, the goal here is to make sure that everyone is paying attention. All right, can we move on to the next slide, please? Now, I want everyone to reflect and take some time. As you can see on the slide, what are the three words that you would want to represent you? So when I'm asking you this question, I want you to pause right now and take a minute. If, for example, you are entering a meeting or entering a room, what are the three words that you would like to hear? What are the words that you want to be described with? Do you want to be described as a leader, someone who's smart, someone who is graceful, someone who's beautiful, someone who is in control? I want everyone to take a moment and really think, what words do I want to be associated with? And by having those three words, and you keep reminding yourself those three words, then that should be your goal. Because if you want to be perceived as a leader, you cannot conduct a training or conduct a class looking or all stressed with your fuzzy hair and you don't even look presentable, because that doesn't look like a leader. If you want to be perceived as someone who is, let's say, graceful, you cannot just shout or say bad words. You have to be calm and you have to be composed, because ultimately that's grace, that's being you being graceful, and at the same time it also reflects power. You don't really have to raise your voice. And if ever you are raising your voice, let's say you are a teacher and you have a lot of students who are not paying attention, of course it depends on the situation, you can also do that. But in other situations, if you are shouting, let's say in a meeting, a PTA meeting perhaps, or let's say a meeting with other professionals, you wouldn't look as powerful as what you are trying to exude. You will just look like someone who is not in control. So think about it. What are the three words that you want to be associated with? So while you are reflecting on that, because of course that's not an assignment or not even a seat work, that is something that you can do in your own time. Let's move on to the things that perhaps we can do so that we can achieve those three words that you have written down. So executive presence and professionalism in the new normal. It's been over 6 months. I hope everyone is still okay. I hope everyone has already adapted to the changes that we have right now. Because, of course, the best way to approach this situation is to embrace it. And whether you embrace it or not, companies, schools, institutions have already embraced this new normal because life has to move on. We cannot be stuck at at a specific point in time. We have to develop, we have to move forward. That is why a lot of us are currently working from home. If you are working from home, I want you to really take this moment and reflect on how blessed you are. Yes, I know that we're talking about executive presence, but I really want you to take this moment to just stop and reflect how blessed you are, because not everybody has the same opportunities as you are. Even if you are a teacher and you are having a hard time adjusting to the new curriculum or the new mode of teaching, still, we are still given an opportunity. Still, you have internet connections. Still, you have the right device to conduct classes. So even if you are an employee of the government or an employee of the private sector, there are always things that we should be grateful for. And the reason why I'm talking about gratitude right now is because by having that mindset, that bountiful mindset, instead of coming from a place of scarcity, then we can function better. Then you will have more opportunities to accept and adapt to the situation. Don't get me wrong, life is hard. I know. I'm also experiencing it too. The entire world is experiencing it too. But we have to have the right mindset first. And once we have that mindset of being grateful, then we can move forward and we can improve so that we can share the knowledge and the skills that we have to the people that we are working with. Okay? So let's move on to the next slide, please. So first of all, how can we develop executive presence and professionalism in the new normal? First, let's set proper expectations. Not just for your team members, not just for your colleagues, but for yourself as well. Number one, acknowledge that working from home will be different from your usual office setup. It is a fact. It's completely different. You're gonna be like me. I'm alone in my apartment. I don't have seatmates. I don't have anyone to talk to. I've been experiencing this for 6 months now. And just like now, I am talking to you. In the old normal, I'll be inside a classroom conducting a seminar, and I can see your faces and I can hear your reactions instantaneously. But right now, I've accepted the fact that we are doing a webinar. I can't even see you. I don't know if you are listening. I don't even know if you are appreciating what I'm saying, but I have to accept it. This is the new thing that we are all experiencing. The sooner that we accept that it will be different, then it would be a lot better for us because we can have that or use that energy to adapt or to think of ways on how we can adapt to the situation. And that also includes being aware that it can also be difficult, more difficult for people who are with families, parents, especially for parents, because your kids will be there. They will need you. During a meeting, they might run up to you, they might ask for food. If you own a pet, that your cat or your dog might jump while you're conducting a meeting, you have to acknowledge that. There's no way to deny that because that is our new normal. Second, if you are conducting a meeting, you have to recognize that dead airs and overlapping speakers will take place or that incident will happen during meetings, especially when people are so passionate about the topic. Most likely this person and this person will talk on top of each other and they won't even take the time to listen. If you are the one conducting that meeting, you have to also think of that ahead of time. How will you manage that type of conversation? Because it will definitely happen. Third, if you are a leader, when I talk about a leader, you can be a manager in the corporate world, you can be an educator, you can also simply be like the head of a group meeting. If you are a leader, whatever type of leader you may be, always, always set a clear agenda for virtual meetings. We all have to value everyone's time. Going into a meeting is not easy, especially in this type of environment, simply because you have to set up so many things. We will discuss that later in our presentation. That's why if you're the one presiding the meeting, make sure that you set a clear agenda. Respect begets respect. So we all must respect other people's time and energy. So just like what we did, I mentioned earlier about the topics that we will discuss. Make sure that you have a clear agenda. Otherwise, your 1 hour meeting can turn into 2, 3, or even 4 hours. And maybe you won't even be productive. If there's no clear agenda, then you don't even understand or you wouldn't even know what your goals are. So set a clear agenda all the time. And finally, understand that people love visuals. That is the greatest thing. Even in the old normal, if you are conducting a meeting or if you are an educator, you know that people love seeing photos. So understanding that we are visual creatures, then we must adapt to that. We have to adjust and we have to embrace that. So in our presentations, we must provide visuals. That's why I started with that image of Vico and that Zoom bombing incident because I need to get your attention. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So ladies and gentlemen, a big factor, considering that we're talking about visuals, is we have to look the part. Yes, again, that's me. And the reason that I'm always using my photo, it's because I want to make sure that I am putting where I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I have to lead by example. If I'm talking about executive presence, then I should apply that to myself as well. So looking the part, first of all, dress up like your normal day at work. Why is it important? Number one, it will give everyone the impression that you are still professional. When we are talking about looking like your normal day at work, if you're wearing long sleeves, if you can, wear long sleeves. If not, at least wear something with a collar, just like what I'm wearing now. Because of course, we understand that we are living in a tropical country. Sometimes we don't have the air conditioning at home compared to our office. So of course we have to acknowledge that difference, but we still have to look presentable. If you are dressing up for work, then it only makes other people understand that you mean business, that you are serious about the meeting. And at the same time, it also gives you that kind of jump start in your mind that you're about to work, as opposed to just wearing something like never wear sandal, please. Never wear sleeveless, please. Sometimes maybe it could be acceptable for you to wear t-shirt, but I wouldn't recommend that. More often than not, you should wear something with a collar if you really want to look like you are respectable. And of course, this may vary from industry to industry, but this is our recommendation for today. Wear something with a collar. And number two, set a decent profile photo in your Google account so that others can see you even if your camera is turned off. For example, in this webinar that we have right now, let me see if I can. Okay, I'm going to stop my video just so that you can see my profile picture. Look at that. As you can see, I have the same photo that you're looking at right now, because even if you are not on camera, people should still see your face. Because ladies and gentlemen, now more than ever, we are living in our homes. We don't see each other. And it's so easy to be disconnected. But the goal of conducting a meeting, a webinar, is to connect with people. And if you connect with people, they need to see your face. So that's why make sure that you have a photo where your face is clearly seen, properly lit. Try to wear something that is what you are wearing at work. Like me, I'm wearing something with a collar. So try to do that. Do not, please, do not use photos where you're not wearing anything. Please do not use a photo of you doing some wacky faces. Please do not use a photo of you with so much filters that people can't even see your face anymore. Because again, whatever we put out will always be remembered by our colleague and everyone who is watching. So make sure that what you look like and the photo that you have will be aligned to the three words that you have identified earlier during this presentation. If you want to look like a leader, look like one. If you want to look like someone who is in control, look like one. Okay? The best test would be look at yourself in front of the mirror. Will you respect that person that you're seeing based on what they are wearing? If the answer is yes, then you are good to go. All right, next slide, please. Okay, now since we are talking about looking the part, here are some recommendations. Again, these are recommendations. They are not requirements. I'm only recommending these things simply because it can add value to you as someone who is presenting or perhaps be a participant of a meeting. First, jewel tones are highly recommended to achieve a more impactful presence. So the images that you are seeing right now, those are examples of jewel tones. Why are we recommending jewel tones? Simply because it is usual that we have a plain white background, perhaps a beige background. That's the typical color of our walls at home. And we have to pop out of our background. Like me, I'm wearing something, generally this is jewel tone, but I'm not sure if you can see it properly. But the difference is that what I'm wearing is not blending to my background. Because the point is, your focus should be with me. If I am blending with my background, then most likely you will not listen to what I'm saying. You will just look at what I am wearing and you will just make fun of me. And that's normal. And that's what we are trying to avoid. That's why jewel tones are highly recommended, because it will make you pop out of your background. Second, for virtual meetings, plain clothes are preferred over prints. Why is that? Some prints, let's say stripes, some prints might move when you are on camera. Of course, we don't want distractions. That's the main goal, for your viewers to focus on you, because there are so many factors that can make your participant be distracted or look the other way. Imagine in their homes, they have kids, they have pets, the noise of the neighbors, and so on and so forth. So you have to do your part as well. If you want them to focus on you, make sure that you are worth focusing on. Do not wear something distracting. Because if you're wearing like loud prints, people will just look at your clothes. If you are wearing, let's say, polka dots, people will just look at those polka dots instead of just focusing on what you're saying. Let's try to eliminate any possible distractions. That is the point of wearing plain clothes. And again, it will also help you pop out of the background. All right, next slide, please. Now, if we're talking about what to wear, I mentioned this earlier that, we have to be mindful of what we are wearing. So here's the hard truth, the hard fact right here. Professional on top, party at the bottom, that is like the new uniform in the new normal. Just like the image that you're looking at right now. Some of us, we work like that. We look really formal on top, and then we're wearing shorts underneath. Some of us might be wearing pajamas. But, it's okay. As long as you know that people will see everything on this square right here, on this screen right here. So if, for example, you are not wearing anything decent underneath or anything presentable, be mindful. Don't stand up. Make sure that your video is turned off, because we don't want to see your crown jewels. We don't want to make any controversies or scandals. We don't want that. We just want to look professional. So professional on top, party at the bottom. It's okay, as long as you are mindful. Let's move on to the next slide, because we have an example. This is a recent video from Good Morning America. This happened at the beginning of the pandemic. As you can see, they are doing the report, and the guy on the right, he is reporting from home. But what he did not anticipate is that the camera is not only capturing his upper body, the camera also captured what he was wearing underneath. He is wearing wearing his coat, but he's wearing shorts underneath. And this video went viral. You can check it on YouTube. You can just type Good Morning America reporter, and then you will see this video. Of course, we don't want to go viral for all the wrong reasons. We want to be known for doing good in our jobs. And this is what we are trying to avoid. Next image, please. Next slide, please. Now, we are already talked about what you should wear. Now let's talk about your background. What type of background should you have, especially here in Zoom? We have an option to, if you're using Zoom in your meetings, there is an option for you to alter your background. So what type of background should we have? Next slide, please. When you are setting up your background, make sure that it is plain or it is professional looking. When we talk about plain or professional looking, a plain white wall or your plain wall at home would do well. When we talk about professional looking backgrounds, of course, if you have a library, a study, you can put your plants at the background. If you're a plantito or a plantita, you can have, some like new landscape at home. You can do that. It depends on you. As long as it looks professional and it will not distract your viewers. Because again, the point is we're trying to eliminate as much distractions as we can, because the focus should be on you and what you're trying to say. Now, if, for example, you don't have a plain wall, you don't have a library, what can you do? you can just put some piece of cloth at the back just so that it can be plain. What we don't want, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of you who might be guilty of this. Try to avoid setting up your camera and your background is, let's say, your sink, your kitchen, in your kitchen. Because instead of focusing on you, people might look at, okay, they have a lot of dishes, unwashed dishes in the sink. Or okay, if they are in the kitchen, maybe what are they having for dinner? We all know, we think like that. And of course, that is distraction. Let's try to avoid that. Also, try not to go, let's say, if you are inside your room, please make sure that your room is clean and that you don't have any clothes hanging around because that will definitely be an example of a distraction. And it will also destroy your credibility. Now, another thing that we should consider is you have to choose a quiet space in your home for obvious reasons. If you are in a meeting, like right now, I am the one talking to you. I am doing my best to make sure that you are only hearing me. You're not hearing any dogs barking or any noises from the neighbors. Try to minimize again the distraction as much as you can. So try to look or create your own sweet spot at home so that whenever you go to a meeting, you always go to that spot. Like in my case, this is my spot. I don't have a big house. I just live in a studio apartment, just to let you know. And I already created this small setup where I have this monitor. I have my laptop here, and then I have my chair right here, and then my background. And this space is specifically created for webinars like this. And it doesn't really take a lot of space. I think this is just more or less 1 square meter. 1 square meter is enough for you to have your own safe space for virtual meetings. And last, remove any possible distractions. Everyone's attention should be on you. I kept saying this all throughout the webinar because that is should be your main goal. If you can see that image below, you can see that there is a guy with a necktie, and it's from BBC News. That is also a screenshot from a viral video. You can check that on YouTube, or maybe you've seen that on Facebook before. So the idea here is that that individual right there is being interviewed by BBC News. And while he's talking about serious matters, all of a sudden, his child, that little girl, that cute little girl wearing yellow, came in happily. And then there is a baby in a walker who entered the room. And then all of a sudden, the wife is there. That lady there panicked and she needed to grab those kids out of the room. And what happened? Of course, everyone got distracted. Instead of focusing on what that person is talking about, everyone is looking at the commotion that's happening in the background. Let's try to avoid that as much as we can. Next slide, please. Now, this is a recent incident that we also experienced or we all saw on social media. So this is Doris Bigornia doing her report. And while she's doing her report, as you know, she's in a professional setting. She's in her home library. However, as you can see in that arrow or that circle right there, her cats were fighting. So instead of focusing on what she's saying, we are now looking at the two cats fight behind her. And at the same time, instead of focusing on what she's saying, she also felt uncomfortable because she can hear her cats in the background. So we don't want to go viral for those types of things. So we try to remove those types of distraction. So again, this happened at the beginning of the pandemic. People are still adapting. So that's why I also understand why this happened. Everyone was adapting. And now, since we are already 6 months in, we should not commit these mistakes anymore. All right, thank you. Next slide, please. Now, okay, here we are. If you are attending a meeting or if you are conducting a meeting, verbal communication is more crucial or This is of the highest importance now more than ever, because whatever you put out, it can be recorded, it people can save it, and everyone is definitely paying attention. So we have to be mindful of our pacing. We cannot speak super fast. We cannot speak in a very fast manner. Otherwise, your viewers will not understand what you're saying, or they might have a hard time keeping up with your discussion. Like in my case right now, I am trying my best to pace myself so that I have those pauses so that you can digest or absorb whatever I am saying. Because if I speak in a very fast manner like this, I'm pretty sure you will have a hard time keeping up with the things that I'm saying, right? But if I am trying to speak in this manner, then you will have the time to also understand what I'm saying. Another thing that we have to consider, not everyone's internet connection is stable. That is why being mindful of your pacing is important. Because of course, we want everyone to pay attention. Like right now, we have 288 viewers. I'm pretty sure some of you might be sitting at home paying full attention. Some might be, who knows, cooking lunch, or some of you might even be traveling, and the internet might be intermittent. So be mindful of your pacing. Second, the second thing, modulated voice is preferred all the time. Because when you speak with a modulated voice, like what I am doing now, I am modulating my voice. It doesn't only add to my credibility, but it's also nice to the ears. Because ultimately, we like to hear modulated voices. Because if I try to raise my pitch like this, it will definitely sound harder. I mean, it will definitely sound harsher, and you wouldn't even have. Maybe you will get distracted by the type of the voice of that I'm saying, because the pitch is so high. But if I'm trying to speak in a very, very like overly modulated voice, that can also be distracting. That is why you have to find the right balance when you are speaking. Again, remove any possible distractions. The focus should be on you and the message that you are trying to say. And lastly, be critical of your words. Again, be critical of your choice of words. Whatever you say during a meeting can be held against you. It will be a reflection of your values. It will be a reflection of you as a person. Because again, everything that we put out will always be a reflection of who we are. So be critical when you are choosing the words that you're saying. Because if you're choosing the right words, people can think that you're eloquent. They may think that you are smart, or they may simply think that you don't know what you are saying. They can think that you are you value your values are on the right place, or you are raised by your parents well, or when you're always cursing or you're saying bad things, people might also think otherwise. So be mindful and be very critical of your choice of words. Whatever you say will be out there, and again, it can be recorded. People will remember you for it. Next slide, please. Aside from the verbal communication, now this is the next part. Of course, there are the non-verbal communication. So the things that we have to remember are: one, exhibit proper posture. Okay, let me do some demo. Even though I'm very small in your screens right now, why is exhibiting proper posture important? If you're sitting straight, then your body can definitely hold your weight properly, as opposed to when you are slouching. When you are slouching, it's harder to breathe, and it will definitely constrict your voice. Like right now, I'm slouching and I'm having a hard time breathing. That's why I sound different. But if I sit straight, of course, the air can easily pass through my my lungs and my diaphragm. You know, I can use the power of my diaphragm to modulate my voice. Therefore, I will have a clearer speaking voice. That's why having the right posture is important, even when you're attending the meeting. Because when you are sitting straight, it also shows that you are paying attention. When you are slouching, it shows that you're not interested or you're bored. If your arms are crossed like this, it shows that you are not interested. These are the messages that that you are sending out with your nonverbals. But if, for example, you are sitting properly, you are looking at the camera, it shows that you are attentive and you are paying attention. Just like right now, my complete attention is with you guys. I don't even see everything that is around me right now because I'm doing my best to connect with you, because that is the right way of conducting a webinar or a meeting. Second, be mindful of how you sit. Okay. Why is this important? If you are sitting at the middle part or at the back part of your chair, like this, like right now, then your body is relaxing. Of course, this is good when you are, especially when you are doing a very long meeting. But when you're doing this way or manner of sitting, then it relaxes your body and it also makes you want to rest. That's the thing. Sometimes you might even feel sleepy if you are simply, like sitting like this. But if you are sitting at the edge of your seat, then automatically your body will prop itself up. You will have the right posture, and you can easily pay attention and be agile with the conversation because you are 100% focused in your meeting. So be mindful of how you sit. Next, eye contact matters. Now, why are we talking about eye contact? We are not seeing each other face to face now, but even in during face to face meetings, we know that it is important to keep an eye contact because it connects us with the other person. In this scenario, if I'm looking at straight to the camera right now, then it's just like me connecting with you. Even if I can't see you, but I'm looking at the camera, it's me connecting with you. But if, for example, I do not know what I'm talking about, I needed to read my slides, then I will look at the screen. If I'm looking at the screen, this is more impersonal. Now, during informal meetings, if your eyes are on the screen, that should be okay. But if you are in a formal meeting, let's say a job interview, or you're talking to your boss, or let's say you are talking to someone important, then you have to keep your eye on the camera so that you can remain engaged with them. So these are the nonverbal communication things or things that we should be mindful of. Next slide, please. So, okay, now that we are done with the verbal and the non-verbal communication part, let's talk about leading virtual meetings. So when we are talking about leading virtual meetings, if you are the host of a meeting, or you're the one presenting, or let's say you are an educator and you are teaching at home, here are the things that you should remember. Number one, always give an impactful introduction, because that is the attention step. If you're a teacher, you should know this, that you have to catch the attention of your viewers. Otherwise, they wouldn't be interested in listening. I'd like to believe that I did that with the image of Vico Soto and that, Zoom bombing incident. That is something that I hope it's something that you wouldn't expect from a meeting. So I intentionally use that simply because we all know that incident. We have seen that on the news. It's familiar. And that will also show us why it's important to talk about executive presence and professionalism. Second, encourage everyone to speak up. If you are inside a meeting or a class, it's important that you engage. If, for example, everyone is here in this Zoom meeting, most likely I will talk to you. I will ask everyone to put their comments in the chat box. But in this case, since we are streaming live on Facebook, I am encouraging everyone to put your comments in the comment section so that we can read them and perhaps answer most of your questions. Because when you are engaging with your audience, they will also feel that they are a part of the conversation. And that is actually the main point of interactions. Don't we all just want to feel that we are a part of something? We all want to be accepted. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. That is why engaging with everyone is important, especially during virtual meetings. We have to maintain that connection with our viewers. Next, acknowledge participants using their name. Everyone wants to hear their names. So instead of saying sir or ma'am, or instead of saying that guy wearing orange, instead of saying that, which is so impersonal, you call everyone by their names, especially during webinars or meetings. Everybody has their own names. So you can easily call their names. It's like a virtual name tag anyway. So call their name. It sounds more personal. Again, you can maintain that connection with your viewers or your audience. Again, understand that people love visuals. This is the second time that I mentioned this in this webinar simply because I want to emphasize it. If, for example, the slides that we have doesn't have visuals, more often than not, you'll get bored. Our attention span is typically up to 20 minutes only. If I'm not doing something interesting or if I'm not talking about something interesting, you will get bored. You will just close this live stream and you will just continue with your life. That's why I am doing my best to try to engage with you and to talk about things that you can relate to and perhaps show you images that could be funny or could be interesting to you. So remember that people love visuals. Try to incorporate that in your presentation. And the last part is introduce elements of surprise. If, for example, your presentation is monotonous all throughout, people will get bored. Now more than ever, there's so many possible distractions anywhere, especially in their homes. You are battling against the noise of the neighbor, the sounds of the house pets, the cries of the baby, the Meralco bill, and so many other things that we might have in our minds. You are competing against that. So if you are a responsible leader or a responsible host, you have to do yourself a favor by producing, some sort of element of surprise to keep or catch or even maintain their attention. Next slide, please. So with things that we are talking about now, we have to be mindful that, these are the key takeaways that we have. But before we talk about these three key takeaways, I'll add some more additional tips. Okay, I think everyone will appreciate some technical tips. Number one, aside from, let's not talk about those words right now, okay? Let's talk about some technicals. Number one, if you are conducting a meeting, make sure that your camera, like right now, this camera that you're seeing right now, make sure that your camera is elevated. It should be higher or the same level as your head. Because if, for example, your camera is simply on your table, then people can simply see you from a very unflattering position. Most likely, you will see me on this position if my camera is lower than my face. You can practically look up my nostrils, and we don't want that. Now, my laptop is actually placed on top of several books. That's why it's elevated. So my elevation, for example, this is me and this is my camera. My elevation is like this. My camera is coming from a much higher angle, or you can actually do it on the same level. Because if the camera is lower than your face, you will not look your best. And it's so unflattering. Another tip, like right now, try not to be super close or that close with your camera. Try to keep at least 3 feet away. Try to keep your camera at least 3 feet away. If you don't have an idea how far 3 feet away is, just raise your hands and try to reach out to your camera. If you cannot touch your camera, then that should be enough. Because the idea there, like right now, I'm trying to reach out to my camera. Because the idea right there is that if you are trying to conduct a meeting, they should see your upper body so that they can see your hand gestures. Because if they cannot see your hand gestures and they can just see your face, that's definitely not flattering at all. They might see a lot of flaws in your face. And another tip would be make sure that you have the right lighting. As you can see, I have a ring light. The disadvantage of wearing glasses is that it also reflects on my eyeglass. But the idea here is you should at least see my face. If you cannot see my face, then that is not the right setup. You don't necessarily need to have a ring light. All you just have to have is the proper lighting and make sure that you are not against the light. If you are doing your meeting and you are behind a window, don't do that, because what the people will see are simply shadows. In my case, I have my proper lighting here. To add on to my light, I also installed a ring light. And ladies and gentlemen, I am highly recommending that you buy a ring light now, especially that we have a lot of sales, upcoming sales. I know that it can cost around 600 to 1,200. I know that it can be expensive for some people, but it is an investment. Not only will you look good in your webinars, it can also be an important tool whenever maybe you're taking some photos at home. Because right now, most of us cannot go outside. If you have a ring light, you can take good photos. And at the same time, having the right light during a meeting is very important. Again, they have to see your face, so you have to connect with your people. So again, when it comes to technical recommendations, one, have your camera in an elevated manner, just like right now, it's elevated. Number two, make sure that you are at least 3 feet away from your camera so that they can see your upper body and they can see your hands if ever you have any gestures. And number three, have the right lighting. So those are the 3 technical recommendations that I have. So now let's have our key takeaways. Let's have our slides back on our screen. Because ultimately, if we are talking about executive presence and professionalism, if you want to retain that, if you want to look like you are a leader, if you want to make sure that you look like you are in control or you know what you're talking about, or if you are credible, then you must prepare for it. That's very important. Number two, whatever we put out to the universe, to the entire internet, that can either make us or break us. So that's why that is important. And ultimately, these are simply recommendations. Our goal here in this webinar is to provide you all of the information that you may need. You may apply that in your life. You can choose not to. But then again, these informations are here for you because the Department of Information and Communication Technology would like to help everybody here. That's why I am here. So with that, I hope that you learned a lot. And again, yeah, there we are. These are just guidelines. Thank you so much for paying attention. I know that maybe I'm not sure if I've taken a lot of time, but yeah, those are the top 3 key takeaways that I would like to share with everyone. So that will be all, ladies and gentlemen.
All
So
right.
thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. John Victor Canta, for that very wonderful and informative discussion. And I bet everyone is eager to ask questions. So we will now open our open forum. So I will be reading the comments and questions from our viewers today. All right. So first, I have here with me the first question. Okay, now, Sir JV, the first question is Taglish considered professional or it is on a case-to-case basis?
Okay. When it comes to the language, it's on a case-to-case basis. We need to understand who we are talking to. If, for example, we are working in the corporate world and you are talking to the senior leadership, then I am highly recommending to speak in English. But if it's an informal meeting, let's say with students or your colleagues, Taglish can be acceptable. The main idea here is to make sure that what you're trying to say is coming across in the best possible way. So it's on a case-to-case basis.
I agree, Sir JV. All right. Well, another question. So they are asking for a tip. Actually, they would like to know some tips on how to improve, like speaking voice, English fluency, and improving posture.
Okay. So when we're talking about our communication skills, this might be an unconventional way or an unconventional recommendation, but I always recommend everyone to watch much English movies or series as you can. Because if you practice it when you talk to someone in English or when you watch English shows, eventually you will adapt that type of conversation. That is why I don't know if you recognize or realize this, but there's a lot of children right now. When they speak in English, they have an English accent.
Mhm.
That's because of what they are watching on YouTube, right? And
Exactly.
what we typically do in our free time, that will compound and eventually mold us to the type of person or communicator that we will be. So be mindful of what you watch. Now, when it comes to posture, it's simple. Just try to keep yourself, try to look in front of the mirror. All you have to do is straighten your back. And if you don't like what you're seeing in the mirror simply because you're slouching, you're not doing it right. And here's another tip. If you are, let's say you're standing and you want to make sure that you have the right posture,
Mhm.
lean against the wall.
Mhm.
Make sure that your buttocks and your shoulders are basically touching the wall. If your buttocks and your shoulders are touching the wall, then that is the right posture. And then you can just step away and then try to maintain that posture.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir JV. Well, I learned a lot from that. Okay, a follow-up question. What would be the best color for someone presenting online? Well, you mentioned earlier, if you don't have any proper lighting.
Proper
When you,
lighting, no
yeah.
proper lighting. Okay, when it comes to what the recommended outfit, the recommended color, blue is always a safe color.
Mm-hmm.
Blue is
It's
always a
fresh
safe
on the
color,
eyes, yeah.
fresh
Mm-hmm.
on the eyes. If you don't have a white background, then you can wear white. But of course, we know that sometimes it's hard to maintain a white shirt because
Mm-hmm.
that's the typical problem of everybody having white laundry. Wearing red might send a
Yeah,
different message because we know that red is a very powerful color.
I agree.
So be mindful of the type of meeting that you're conducting. If you're wearing black, it may work depending on the meeting again. But my
Mhm.
best recommendation will always be jewel tones, simply because that can make you pop out of your background. Now, when it comes to the lighting, here's the thing. We always have, I don't know if you're seeing this online, we always have those types of sales. Most likely there will be a 10-10 sale soon or an 11-11 sale soon. If you cannot afford a full-blown ring light, you can just buy those small ring lights, the ones that you can attach to your mobile phones. I think they're like
Tumatawag
80
siya dun.
pesos. And you can
So,
just,
nandyan yung question ko, yung
yeah,
nandun.
you can just clip that on the your camera and you can just turn it on. What matters is that you should be visible to your viewers. They should see your face. That will
Okay.
be all.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir JB. I believe we have last two question.
Okay.
All right. So, second to the last, how does demonstrating executive presence help during emergency situations?
Okay. During emergency situations, what matters is that we know who is the leader or the one who is in charge. If, for example, in an emergency situation, you see someone who is panicking, I am pretty sure that you will not believe what that person is saying because they are not in control. They cannot compose themselves. Think about it. If you can reflect back on the emergencies that you had in the past, who are you listening to? You're typically listening to the person who is most calm and the one who's thinking logically. So in emergency situations, as long as you're able to become a swan, just like the image that we showed you earlier, you have to maintain that calmness. You have to maintain that composure even if the entire world is panicking and going crazy. Because if you are not trying to compose yourself, no one will believe you. You wouldn't look credible. They wouldn't have a leader. There wouldn't be any directions. That's when executive presence and professionalism comes in during an emergency.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that, Sir JB. And last question from I got this question from our comment section. So we have from Ziraida Asadil Daud, and here is the question: how to maintain professionalism with rude students or co-workers in an organization?
Okay. As we all know, we cannot control the people around us. I'll try to repeat. We cannot control the people around us. But what we can control is how we react to situations like that. If we try to control things that we cannot control, that's when we get frustrated. That's when we feel bad. And that's when, our logical thinking will be thrown out of the window. Now, if you're facing difficult situations like rude students or rude colleagues, you just have to keep yourself composed. You can call out that person without even saying anything bad, and you can just address them. You can just call them and ask them what their insights are. You put the spotlight on that person. Maybe they want to share something. Maybe they want to express something. You give that spotlight to them, and then you ask. Because ultimately, when someone is being rude to us, it's coming from so many places, but we don't know for sure. And for us to know, we have to ask the right questions. And if we involve or include them in the conversation, then we might be able to get their buy-in. And perhaps we can have an adult or professional conversation. Do not give in to rude people, because the moment that you respond to their attack, that's going to be chaotic. If we are being professional, and if we want to show that we are in control or we have the power in that situation, then be mindful of your words. Address that person's concern directly in a very respectful and professional manner, and that should be enough. And then you can have a separate private conversation with that person after the meeting. So that would be my recommendation in that difficult situation.
Okay, Sir JB, by the way, may mga humahabol pa po na questions sa ating FB Live. So they are very
Sure.
much interested to ask question pa po, no?
Sure.
And I hope that you can accommodate.
Of course.
So, well, that's great. And we have here from Miss Ayeza Lopez. And the question is, Sir, is using headset with microphone still formal in video class or conference?
Okay. If we're talking about video, a conference or a class, then in my opinion, if you can have like an earphone like what I have, or if you can afford, let's say, some earpods, just like this one that I have, some people the wireless earphone, then it would be recommended. However, we also have to recognize that not everyone might have the same resources or budget or money. You have to weigh things. Number one, can you afford it? Number two, will it be a good investment? If this is what you do for a living, like in my case, this is what I do for a living, then I have to invest on the right earphone or headset, or perhaps this wireless earphone right here. But if, for example, you don't have the right resources yet, then that should be okay, because we are all adapting to this change. And again, people can also be forgiving. What matters more is that you are able to communicate what you're trying to say. So whatever device you are using, that should depend on the situation, and you just have to weigh things out.
Okay, well, thank you so much. That will be the last question, Mr. John Victor Casa. And this concludes the open forum for this session. Sadly, all good things must come to an end, but we have reached the end of our program. So to our resource person, ladies and gentlemen, Sir JV Canta, if there is one thing you would like the participants to take away from this webinar, what would it be?
Okay, if there's one key takeaway that I want everyone who's watching right now, is that how we present ourselves or how we manage or navigate through this tough situation will always be a reminder of who we are, our values, and how we would like to be perceived in the future. So if you are conducting a meeting, you are attending a meeting, always do your best to show up in your best form. Look your best, act your best, so that everyone will remember you as that person who is prepared, someone who is ready, and someone who is credible. Because ultimately, this pandemic will eventually end. But the impression that you will leave to the people who are watching or listening to you, that can last a lifetime. So be mindful of your words, be careful of your actions, and always remember to be kind to yourself and to other people, because I think kindness is the most underrated thing right now. So those are the things that I would like to share to everybody.
All right, well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, our research person for today's webinar, Mr. John Victor Canta.